Okay, we're here for Tibbers. We're at the end of Tibbers session, and this is Tibbers' roadmap to success. Normally, I usually have a dog right here, but Tibbers is very fearful and reactive to people that she doesn't know, so she's standing just right over here. But when we first got here, she was growling and snarling, and now she's actually checking out the camera person right here, who is her primary guardian. Now, this is basically, I think, a situation where we've got a little bit of what I call the perfect storm. The dog basically didn't have any exercise, or was getting actually better exercise than most of my clients, so let me take that back. But it was probably a little under-exercised, didn't have any rules, and was able to tell the humans when to pet her or give her attention. And so lack of rules tells the dog we're peers. The dog thinking that it can tell the human what to do, when to pay them, gives the dog the impression that we're in charge of the human. Now, like I said, a lot of dogs are off camera. A lot of humans do things to dogs that confuse the dog into thinking that they are in charge. In a dog pack, only the dogs that are leaders get attention or affection for free. So if we pet the dog just for no reason, then the dog feels like, yes, they're reinforcing I'm in charge. If I get to eat in front of the humans, I feel like I'm in charge. If I get to walk in front of the humans, I feel like I'm in charge. So we will start off by going over the importance of rules and structure. And this way the humans can start acting like leaders in the dog's eyes. Well, actually we started off with bat training, which is something we'll pick up on our next session. But we started off with, after that, with some rules and structures so the humans can start acting like a leader by enforcing rules consistently. Now remember, you have to always outlast your dog. That's one of the dirty secrets of dog behavior. Every time you let your dog win, you're teaching your dog to be defiant. And you're going to have to go through about a month period of consistently outlasting the dog, and eventually you'll get to the point where the dog will understand that the human is going to give up. It's important to the human. The human will do whatever they need to do to get their way. Tibbers is kind of stiff. There we go. And that movement is what she disagreed with. Sit. Sit. I like the tail down. She's such a good-looking girl. So she's thinking about it. She's like, you want to bet? Sit. Well, of course, now we're filming, you don't want to cooperate. So we'll just give you one to distract you. Okay, now we don't want to do that, like I said, when off camera, when the dog's barking, because that will actually confuse the dog into thinking that's what gets it. What I was doing for some of the session, I was kind of tossing a treat over here. We have a special guest that's here for the session. She was kind of staring at him. So I was kind of basically trying to preemptively toss a treat before she started growling at the guest. And that's a great way to redirect the dog's attention. Now, we also went over a focus exercise, which is a wonderful way to do that. And I'll talk about that here in a second, but let's go back to rules. So the more that we enforce rules consistently, the more the dog starts to see us acting like a leader. Now, remember, you have 3 seconds to correct or reward your dog. So if your dog does something and if you react 5 seconds later, the dog gets confused as to what is going on. They learn through repetition, consistency, and good timing. Window of 3 seconds to correct or reward. So as soon as the dog starts to look like it's going to break a rule, I would use the escalating consequences to disagree with the dog before it actually broke the rule. Some of the rules we talked about. One of the rules is not being allowed in the furniture, because for dogs, the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have amongst their peers. When we first came in, the dog was on top of the couch growling at us. And one of the first things I asked the guardian to do is ask the dog to get off of the couch. Now, I'm a force-free behaviorist. Well, every real behavior is going to be force-free. What I do is I teach the dog to want to do the thing that I want by creating stage scenarios and helping the dog practice. To help the dog learn to get off the couch, what I do is I touch the dog's nose with a treat, toss it on the ground. When the dog jumps down and licks it up, I say the word off, or whatever the word that means get down. I don't like using down because we use that in other capacities. Now remember, every time the treat goes in the dog's mouth, they should hear the command word immediately after, not before. Also, when it comes to command words, make sure we're not over-inflecting. Baby talk is great as long as we always baby talk, but don't do it sometimes this and sometimes that. Use the same consistent word. Don't say off, down, get down, a whole bunch of variants, because that makes it harder for the dog to listen. So I touch the dog's nose, toss on the floor, the dog gets down, and I say the word off. Now, at that point, I'm going to kind of guard and not let the dog back on the furniture. Now, when we're gone, the guardians don't kennel her. And so what we can do is we can actually get the little foldable deals. They've got little nubs, and she won't be able to sit on the couch. The door to the bedroom upstairs is closed, and there's really no other furniture for her to get on. So one of the first rules is not being allowed on the furniture for at least 30 days or as long as the problem is still going on. At the end of that period of time, furniture with an invitation only. So if I invite the dog up, I'm making the decision. And this is a privilege for good behavior. So if I invite the dog up and starts barking, it has to get down. Or if I invite the dog up and then it gets down to get a drink of water, we need another invitation to get up. I also like to give dogs directional command words. And like I said, off the couch is one of them, but something else I do is I take 2 treats for every portal or room. One of the rules is the dog's not allowed to be, there's a work island, so there's kind of an L in the kitchen. One of the rules should be the dog's not allowed to be in that L when we're preparing food. And so what I would do is, telling the dog to leave is hard, so what I would sit. Oh, she's looking for it. All right, we'll just give you that one. So basically what I would do is go to the area that the dog's not allowed to be in when we're not cooking, touch her nose with the treat and toss the treat out, and this way I'm going to say out. And I would do that in every room in the house, so we help the dog practice being asked to leave and being rewarded and happy to leave. So that way later on when we ask the dog to leave an area because we're cooking in the kitchen, the dog's happy to do so. So rule number 1, no furniture. Let me back up on one other thing. I like the dog to use the dog bed. Now, we have a dog bed that's kind of like more like a pillow. There's a lot of lumps in it. I prefer the ones that are more like a cushion, so it's flat, so you won't see any difference. Because I could put a treat on that dog bed over here. We can't see it on camera. This is fine, but the dog might not necessarily see it. So I like a light cream or a white color so the dog will see it. And what I would do is I toss a treat onto the dog bed, come up with a funny command word. I work with Fiona Apple's sister. Because she's a singer, we call her sister's dog's bed stage. So we'd say stage, and Brady would run over to the dog bed and sit down, and Fiona thought that was hilarious. And so coming up with fun command words like I talked about off camera can really be beneficial. So what I do is I toss the treat onto the dog bed. When the dog walks over and licks it up, I say the word, let's say Venice. And then let her leave, and then toss another one, say Venice. So the first way is I toss the treat and I say the word after the dog goes and licks it off. The second way I do it is I leave one on the dog bed and don't point it out. And wait, the dog's like, I smell chicken liver. And let her find it on her own. And when she finds it, say the word Venice. And then this is to entice her to go there. And sometimes I'll lead the dog over with the treat, put her into a sit or a lay down, and pop the treat in her mouth and say Venice as well. Now, after a while, she'll start going there on her own. When she does, pull out a treat and toss it towards her. Or just say the word Venice when she goes over there. But eventually, just like us, if every time we go to our restaurant we find a $100 bill in the lobby, we're going to eat there a lot. So if every time she goes to this dog bed, there's a bill there, or there's a tasty treat, she's going to be more inclined to want to go there. And that's a nice directional way we can tell her to get out of our way. I usually like to put it in front of the TV, but wherever works good for you. We talked also about maintenance. We're on a second story, and we have a window that kind of looks down on the courtyard, and I think that's contributed to her thinking she's the guard dog. So I would suggest getting some just white paper. Just go to like Kinko's, get the sheet of white paper and put it on the outside of the door. So it's a filter, so we get sunlight to come in, but she can't look down any longer. So she isn't going to practice being a guard dog. Other rules would be not allowed in the L of the kitchen when we're preparing food. We can use the third escalating consequence to move the dog out of those things. And again, whenever possible, do a dry run. So if you're going to actually spend an hour cooking a real meal, do the microwave, the roast beef trick that I talked about, and help her practice going out until she sits or lies down outside the kitchen. Then you put the roast beef away, then you can actually go through preparing your actual meal. A warm-up or a dress rehearsal for any activity she misbehaves in. And if your dog misbehaves in general, you should ask yourself, have I taught the dog how I want it to behave in that situation? If we haven't, then we can't say the dog is a naughty dog for not behaving because we didn't teach it what we want it to do. Remember, when we do that, we're going to break the activity down into small individual steps and help the dog practice the very first step over and over without any of the following steps combined with it. Only when the dog behaves the way we want for the first step would we move on to the second step. And by systematically doing that, make a list of that and write these things down, and then we're going to make a couple lists. We'd make a list about exercise, the exercise journal that I talked about off camera, write down the time, the number of exercise, the number of time, and write down the time when she licks, number of times when she freaks out. Sometimes you might notice every day at 3 o'clock there's some janitorial stuff going outside she's reacting to. So we know at 3 o'clock we need to get her on the other side of the house temporarily. Also making a list of the command words. Most of us, and I saw several examples of us using variants of the word come here, Tibbers, here girl, and so that makes it harder for the dog to listen. So come up with a consistent list of command words. If it's a new thing that you're teaching her, try to come up with a fun command word. That's actually something we didn't talk about during the session, but teaching her new tricks is a great way to boost a dog's self-esteem and confidence and also help them respect the human a little bit more as an authority figure. Now, I jokingly say this is kind of ironic because of our special guest, but I always say that there's a lot of trainers out there that want to be the dog whisperer. And so they put all these videos on YouTube because they're hoping that the producer of the dog whisperer one day calls them and actually wants to have them come and do their TV show. And so that's why these guys do this. But all these videos are there so you can actually learn how to teach your dog to sit, come, lay down, stay, and all these various things. Find some exercises that require her to develop some self-control, but also some fun ones, and not super hard. We want to be able to be successful with this and build up her self-esteem by giving her new skill sets, which also have the auxiliary benefit of allowing us to play dead. Now I'm playing dead instead of growling at somebody outside or doing things like that. So some of the ones that I like to recommend are balancing a treat on the nose, because that takes self-control, teaching the dog to stay. And if you need help on that, I can share videos of my technique. Remember, first for duration, up to 5 minutes, then for distance, then for distractions. And we went through a focus exercise. We'll talk about that in here in a sec. Let me see. Other rules. If I go to the door, the bedroom door upstairs, and it's closed, I tell the dog to sit. If she doesn't sit, I walk away. Remember, we're only going to say a command word one time from now on. And if she doesn't do it, then we're either going to make it happen or we're going to walk away. Try to create scenarios where we can have the ability to walk away, so we create more motivation for the dog to listen. We have more leverage. So if she wants to go in the bedroom, I go there and I say sit once. If she doesn't want to sit, now here's another little backup or another little tip. Don't do this right before you're going to bed, because you're tired, you want to go to bed. If you're going to go to bed in half an hour, start doing this a half an hour before you go to the bed. And so if you go up there and say sit, she doesn't sit, you walk down here, turn the TV back on, watch TV for 1 minute, then go back and try it again. She doesn't sit, within 3 seconds, I walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. So eventually she learns, as soon as I sit down, the door opens and we're in there. But if I don't do what the human wants, I'm not getting my way. The human's not mad about it. They're not telling me over and over. I just don't get what I want. And now she'll start going to the door, and actually when you walk up there, she'll just sit automatically. Sitting is a really big thing, and it's one of the easiest things you can teach your dog, and it's really beneficial if you put it in the right situation and context. So on walks, I'd like the guardians to actually practice sitting. So one of the things I would recommend is take no more than 5 steps the first couple walks. And somewhere 1 step, 3 steps, 5, whatever, tell her to sit. When she sits, give her a treat, say the word sit, and then walk another up to 5 steps and practice this again. And just think of how long you're going to walk, not a duration. Because if we think of a destination, we get frustrated when the dog's not listening. And in your situation, you have a lot of things that she might be reactive to. So there's nothing wrong. We don't want to keep on pushing the walk because we want to achieve our goal. We want to achieve the goal of a dog being calm and having a good experience on a walk. So we can also be smart about booking when we actually take her for a walk. We found during the morning is actually easier because there are less people out and about. So maybe that's where we do a longer walk. Let me see. We also talked about petting with a purpose. One other thing, another rule, going up and down the stairs. She should walk next to you or behind you, not ahead of you. If she races up the stairs ahead of you, as soon as she passes you, turn around and come and sit back down. Don't say a word. She'll go up there and she's like, all right, now what are we doing? Where did everyone go? And she kind of comes back. Are we going upstairs? And you do it again. And this time you might take 3 steps and 5 steps. But eventually she will figure out on her own, because as soon as I walk in front of the human loses interest. So that's another easy one, because we have 2 sets of stairs here. Now remember to try a laser. She seemed to be interested in laser. Rating up and down the stairs might be a great way of exercising her. A lot of people never think about this, but actually exercising your dog before you take it for a walk, or exercising it before you take it to the dog park, it's very beneficial. Most people take their dog to the dog park, they let it loose, and they don't pay attention to their dog, and the dog's getting in all kinds of trouble. I know these guardians wouldn't do that, but a lot of people do that. And if you just take your dog for a walk first and then burn off that excess energy, then they go in the dog park, they're much more prepared to have a better experience. We talked about this a little bit, but a direct walk up is very challenging, and it can be rude in the dog world. If possible, if you have somebody that's going to approach you and you can control the situation, have the person kind of walk zigzagging sideways towards you. That can be a more helpful approach for the dog. The best way is have them walking parallel to you or perpendicular to you. That's a more friendly approach for dogs. Let me see, for walks, so exercising her first and then taking her for a walk can actually help have a better, more productive walk. Let me see, we also talked about petting with a purpose and passive training. I think the guardians had done a lot of things that actually gave attention to the dog when it was doing the wrong thing, and actually trained the dog to do the wrong things. Chief example is, as soon as I came in, the guardian was trying to soothe her dog. She's like, it's okay, good girl. It's okay, good girl. And she was saying the same exact inflection over and over. And if we're doing that only when the dog is worked up, that actually becomes a command word to get excited. So when the dog is nice and relaxed like she is now, we would pet her and say zen or chill, whatever the word is that means to relax, and put it in context of her actually being calm. When she is reactive like this, remember, we want to move some distance or redirect her attention. And so we went through a focus exercise. Now, if you forget how to do the focus exercise, message me. I can share a video of me doing it with a whole bunch of different dogs. Remember, 1 second at first for all 12 treats. And then you're going to do it, each one of the guardians is going to do it twice a day in different parts of the house. And by the end of the week, we're going to get 1 second, 20 seconds for that second movement. Then we're going to start practicing out in the courtyard compound somewhere when there's no distractions. We can move a little bit faster, but go back to 1 second, 1 second, move your way up to 20 seconds. Then what we want to do is walk her around in the compound with nobody around, and then now when we're walking, she's on the right, we say focus, she looks up at us, we go 1 second, 1 second. And we're doing this as we're walking. And eventually we get to the point where 1 second, 20 seconds, and you're keeping her looking at you as you're continuing to walk. And I also went over a U-turn, which is a great kind of plan B that we throw in case we get caught off guard. So when I'm walking down, if I'm walking down, I'm going to turn sideways. If I'm walking down, this is the sidewalk. When I want to turn, she's always on the right side. So she'd be on this side. I would turn this way. So I'm halfway, I'm perpendicular to the sidewalk. And as I turn, I'm going to hold the treat out here. The dog's going to kind of turn, and when it sees the treat and starts walking towards it, I take another step, try to do this slowly so she doesn't look and bark, and then she will complete, and as soon as we're both walking the other direction, I pop the treat in her mouth and I say the word turn. Then we're going to walk about 4 to 8 paces that way and repeat the process. And so we're doing basically a little oval. But we're going to practice doing this at times when she's not around. That's all right, my movement. And so we're going to practice these at times where, and good job of not petting. Normally the guardians, I'm sure, would try to pet her and relax her, but that rewards her for doing that and makes her think I just did the right thing. So we also talked about a conditioned emotional response for the muzzle, because she needs to wear a muzzle, and she was using a snout muzzle where she actually needs the face guard muzzle. So remember, go to my website and look for a dog named Samson. There's a search on the page. Just search for Samson, and I show how to do a conditioned emotional response, or a CER, with putting a collar on, but you can use the same exact principle. Now for that, because she's compulsive licker, that would be something I would start working on right away. Make sure I'm guessing she's probably going to be a size 3 for the muzzle. And so we want to make sure it's a positive reinforcer. So use the conditioned emotional response. Get a muzzle today and start practicing that. And then we want her to practice wearing the muzzle at times when there's no reason for her to be reactive. That will help prevent her from over-licking herself with the compulsive behavior. But I'm hoping the more that the guardians start enforcing rules and boundaries and structure, that she starts feeling less stressed out and being responsible for the humans. Now, to help the guardians start rewarding her for desired actions and behaviors, what we want to start doing is passive training and petting with a purpose. Now, petting with a purpose is if she comes up and nudges or leans at me or barks at me for attention and I pet her, I'm validating you're in charge of me. So what I do instead is she nudges me, I tell her to sit. If she's already sitting, I ask her to lay down or come and sit over here. She has to do something to change her state. Once she does, I pet her under her chin. Remember, try to pet under the chin and never on top of the head. And then I'm going to say just the command word sit or let crash or whatever it is. And then I can pet her for an hour after that if I want. Now, if somebody comes in the room and sees that I'm petting her and she's standing, that person's going to say to me, paycheck. That means I suspect you may have forgotten to pet her with a purpose. I immediately stop. I don't argue. I say sit. When she sits, I pet her on the chin, say sit again, and it gives me another opportunity to practice it again. And then I tell my partner, actually I asked her to sit. When you came down the stairs, she heard you and she stood up, and David said that I'm allowed to keep on petting her, which I am. And even if you just want to pet the dog, still ask her to sit, come, lay down, do something to earn it. And that's going to boost her self-esteem and make her feel better about doing that and earning that praise instead of being giving it. And also make me respect the humans more, because the humans are expecting me to do these things rather than giving these things to me. Let me see, what else? Passive training is simply recognizing the dog when it does things that we want it to do. So if every time the dog comes to you, we pet the dog and say come. Every time the dog lays down, we pet it and say crash. Every time it sits, we pet it and say sit. Every time it stretches, you can pet it and say stretch if you want to train your dog to do that too. Also toys. Every time your dog brings you a specific toy, you might name each toy a specific toy. This way we help the dog with their intelligence, and you can say, no, I want the carrot. No, that's the apple. Give me the carrot. And so the smartest dog on the planet is this border collie that knows about 1,000 words. You can dump like 900 toys, and it'll dig through until it finds the one that they're looking for. And using her muscle of her brain will actually help drain her physically and also boost her confidence a little bit. So passive training, I usually say recognize or reward if we see somebody. And so if somebody says reward, I look at the dog and I just say whatever the dog's doing. If it's sitting, I pet it and say sit. If it's standing, I assume it just came in, pet it and say come. But remember, you do that for come, sit, lay down. You can use it for passive training. When she takes her first bite of food, maybe you say comida, or whatever the word is that you want to use to mean eat her food. Remember, the humans are always going to eat first, then the dog's going to eat after. Now, I'm going to have one of the guardians come out with me, and I'm going to give them it's going to look like a golf ball that's orange, that's asleep. I'd like them to start feeding her one of her meals out of this thing. Now, unlike a Kong, if you just lay it, it kind of food just spills out. This one, it's got a sleeve inside of it so that it has to like be the food on the opposite side and be the sleeve down and fall through it. So the dog has to nudge it around. She'll become like a little soccer player, but it will make feeding her a lot longer. And also she's earning her food, so she feels better about it and makes her more inclined to want to do something like that. So you might want to have that ready to go when she starts licking, roll it across the floor. And maybe put a couple of these treats in there as well so it has a nice some nice aroma. Now, the Guardians have her on a different kind of a home meal plan now. But if you go back to the dry food, remember, just get a different flavor from the same brand, but a different flavor for each bag. And try putting warm water in with the food. And the Guardian probably do that with her meal plan now. But if she's eating the meal plan the way it is, you probably go with it. But if she gets a little persnickety, do that. Now, the other thing is don't encourage her to eat. She has to eat. So I put the food down. I don't let the dog eat. I eat something first. Remember, 5 or more bites if you're not going to eat your actual meal. Then you give her permission to eat. She walks over the bowl and goes, there's no egg yolks in here or human food. And she walks away. As soon as she walks away, pick it up and dump the food out and put the empty bowl back down. It's important to put the empty bowl back down. A lot of people have to put the bowl in the fridge. It's more convenient for us. When the dog looks at you as took away her food. I want her walking by the bowl over and over all day long. It's empty. It's empty. Kind of like driving on the 405. When there's nobody ahead of you, you drive as fast as your car will go because that's not going to last very long. Same thing for her. We want there like to be and right now the Guardian's only feeding once a day. I'd like them to feed 2 or 3 times a day because I think hunger might be a contributing factor. It's not the cause of any of these things, but we just want to start knocking off anything we can that's contributing to the factor and make her feel as comfortable as possible. Remember, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're reinforcing, including excitement. So when we come home, if she's excited, ignore her unless she jumps up on you. I get this question a lot. David, somebody told me I should ignore the dog. Somebody told me I should correct the dog. Which is it? If the dog's goal is to get your attention, you should ignore them unless they're doing something like to claim you, like jumping up on you when you come home. So one of the things we can do is, is she super excited when she's jumping up when you come home?
Yeah, she's usually crying.
Okay. I have a different technique. I will, if I forget to put it in this write-up, message me, but I normally shoot a video of a technique that we did. I should have filmed the Guardians doing the focus exercise, which it's easy, they got it. So I'll do one about the jumping technique. So the jumping technique, what I do is I have somebody has the dog on a leash. So if you're home and the other Guardian comes home, you would be standing about halfway past where your vacuum cleaner is on the leash. You give the dog about 7 feet of leash. And she's going to want to jump. And what you do is, let's say the leash only allows her to get to here. Well, here's the line. So you stand here, right outside of her reach, turn sideways. And we don't say a word to her. And she's going to be crying and whimpering and jumping up and trying. And the Guardian's it's not a sad thing. But if we pet her when she's doing that, we're going to make her more excited. And that's going to be, she's going to make more mistakes. So after a while, you'll see the dog's energy is going to dissipate a little bit. And when it does, then you're going to turn. I'm going to do it this way. Let's say she's over here. She's trying to reach me. I'm ignoring. As soon as her energy calms, I turn towards her and start engaging. As soon as I turn, she's going to jump up and get excited again. I turn back and I step right outside of her reach and I just wait. What you'll see, you'll get a lot of repetitions turning back and forth, but she'll get calmer and calmer and calmer. What we're saying is, when you're excited, I have no interest in you. When you're calm, you're very attractive to me. And so eventually she'll start sitting faster and faster and not jumping up because the sitting, and we don't tell her to sit. She'll just actually figure out to sit on her own. And as soon as she does that, you turn and start engaging. Now, most of the time when we see a dog, now you don't have this problem, but a lot of people, your dog, they talk this really high-pitched voice and makes the dog all jump up and more excited. You can teach your dog to ignore that. Now, for you, you're not going to have people petting your dog. But eventually you can just get a little bit more animated. At first you just go slowly, but eventually you're like, and then you get that really crazy voice, and you can condition your dog. Just because the human's acting like a ridiculous person doesn't mean that you get to jump up on them. One last little thing, for dogs, in the dog world, some attorneys are kind of screwing this up, but one of the things we recommend people do if you have a reactive dog is to get a big yellow ribbon and tie a bow on your leash halfway distance between the collar and your handle. The bow is an indicator that this dog is either has a medical condition or a behavior issue and doesn't want to be approached. If you tell people, my dog's not a friend of strangers, could you please not pet? Oh, but I'm good with dogs. Why did your dog bite me? Because you're an idiot and I told you not to, and you know better because you had a dog yourself. The yellow bow, for some reason people will ask, what's the yellow bow for? Oh, she's a rescue dog and she nips people that reach out for her. Oh, well, she's a beautiful dog, and they'll walk by. Now, attorneys are trying to screw this because they're saying, well, you know you have a dangerous dog, but that's fine because if we prevent the dog from biting and the dog sees, well, the people approach and they walk away, well, I feel comfortable with that. Now, she's a resource guarder with bones. I have videos for this as well. I think you'll remember the technique, but remember, anytime your dog is guarding something, if you approach, they will bite you. If, in your case, you probably could get away with it, but most people, they'll bite anybody. And the more we take the thing away from them, the more they're going to guard it. So one of the things you can do when she has low-value items is practice a drop. Have you practiced a drop? So for the drop, what I do is I take one of these treats when she has a low-value item, something she's allowed to have at any point so she's not guarding it. We want to shape the behavior. So when she has it, just put it and touch her nose with it. She'll try to take it with the ball in her mouth. And she realizes she can't. When she spits the ball out, pop the treat in her mouth, say the word drop, and then don't go for the item. So in this case, we're teaching the dog dropping things actually results in a reward for you. There's a motivation to do it. And number two, it helps shape that behavior so she's less apt. Now, it's not going to stop the resource guarding. For resource guarding, like I said, we're going to approach, recognize what distance she feels comfortable at, and we're going to toss a treat, and we're going to keep practicing that and gradually get closer and closer till eventually you can get right up there, and then you say drop, and she drops it, you give her the treat, you can take the item. That's a slow, methodical process. If you have questions for that, make sure you message me, because that's not one that you want to mess around with. Now, also, we don't want to use the escalating consequences when she is in aggressive mode. This is to disarray when she's not, because that is somewhat confrontational. We don't want to make things worse. Meeting aggression with aggression will only make the dog more defiant. But I'm hoping that once we flip the leader-follower dynamic with the rules and structure, that she's going to have less cortisol in her blood, hopefully no cortisol in her blood, and can go off duty because she can't look out the window anymore. She can't be on the same level as the humans. The humans are petting me for doing things for them. I can't tell them what to do. It's just, we're really upending her world, but we're building it back up the proper way so that she doesn't feel the pressure of being responsible for the humans. Okay, well, this is Tibbers, and Tibbers Roadmap to Success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.